Welcome to the swamp, which glows with bioluminescence and is filled with xenomorphs and chupacabras. Now with Ark Survival Evolved, I've played more than 2,000 hours between most of the various maps, Aberration included. This is the second DLC released for the game, which, for the Ascended version of the game, just came out not too long ago, so I dove right in to replay it and give my thoughts. If you wish to see the review on the main game, I will provide a link in the description below. Now, let's dive into the DLC and see how it is. The Aberration map is quite different than the Island or even Scorched Earth, taking a more sci-fi approach where the Ark you are on is damaged and leads to a lot of issues, including having no protection against the sun as it burns the surface of the land daily. So all life must live underground, you included. However, you will notice that the life forms here have altered and evolved much differently to adapt to their more alien homeland. You start off in the Mushroom Forest, which is also known as the Green Zone. While there are some safer areas, it is not completely free of extreme dangers. For me, I started by the lake, surrounded by parasaurs and dire bears. While the Spinosaurus can spawn in the lake, I didn't really get bothered by them too much. After a quick turnaround to explore the setting with different graphics, I went to tame my first creature, being a bulb dog. For one, they are cute as hell, and two, they are very important later on for more exploration into the deeper parts of the map. So I went to tame the bulb dog, which led to a mapping issue which instantly killed me, but I'll show you that later on in this video. After that, I made my first base along the side of a hill overlooking the lake and started my journey. Luckily, the dire bears are only territorial rather than kill on sight, so I was able to avoid them mostly, though one aggroed me which ran me into some other predators. Raptors and Ravagers are the most dangerous thing around the lake, and as you venture further out, you will come across much more deadlier creatures unique to this arc, like the Basilisk. Eventually, I did move and made a base closer to the blue zone, as the trek from the lake to the blue area was a long one. Now, you're not going to see a lot of endgame of this map, particularly because I've already played through this map before, and I didn't really want to spend 50, 60, 70 hours in order to get to the purple zone and get the rock drakes and all that kind of stuff, because I'm sure most of you have already seen that before, and if not, they're pretty cool, but this is just for how the map feels and functions. So, with that, I'm going to end this section of just the start of the game as a 3.5 out of 5. It is not nearly as harsh as Scorched Earth, and it gives you enough breathing room to get a foothold, but it still keeps you on your toes with tons of danger around the corner. And like I said, there was some issues with the map terrain itself, but overall not too bad for the start of the playthrough. Now, this is what the DLC adds to the game overall. Of course, this map has a lot of unique things about it that you will only ever see on this map, such as the earthquakes, for an example, which will drop small amount of resources. There is also a light and dark system that you have to dance around, though I'll talk about that in the next section. I am, however, going to give this section a low rating, as a lot of the systems, items, creatures that were added in this DLC remain exclusive to this map. Now, while some maps later on will feature a few of the Aberration creatures, such as rock drakes and even Ravagers, like the Fjordur map, the majority of these dinos will not leave the Aberration map, and even then, some of the items you can make here, well, yes, you can technically make them on other maps, there is usually no reason to, or they don't function. For an example, an item from Scorched Earth is the windmill in order to generate power without the use of a generator. It does not work on this map. It was a waste of time and resources for me to even try to do that. And sometimes items will require, for example, fungal wood or the colored crystals, the red, green, and blue. If they are not on the other map you are currently playing, that means you cannot create the items desired. Not to mention no earthquakes, just as there are no other Scorched Earth weather effects on the other maps. So with that being said, I am going to give this section a 2 out of 5. The exploration is very unique in terms of the light dance. Now, I talked you through earlier about the green zone, such as the bioluminescent blue zone and the radiated purple zone. The reason why I said you need a bulb dog, or really any of the little lighted creatures like the goat or the gecko, is because the blue and the purple zones, you have these creatures simply named unknown. They are little chupacabra alien creatures that will crawl out of the ground and attack you non-stop if you do not have a light source with you. Keeping a light on will prevent them from spawning, but if they do happen to spawn, you can use the light also to damage and kill them. Without that light, they will be immune to all damage, and not only that, they will call more friends to join them, which can lead to even bigger and stronger undesirable creatures. They will also spawn in the purple zone. However, there is another creature that lives in the purple zone that hates the light and will attack you if your light is on. So, while you are in the purple zone, you need to do what I call the light dance and turn it on and off again to prevent a multitude of creatures that want to eat you. Beyond the light dance, you also have a lot more environmental hazards in this time around, from the psychedelic mushrooms to even radiation. Ravagers are one of the best creatures for this no-fly zone map, as there are many vines and areas that the Ravagers can tightrope across and get to areas normally other creatures cannot get to, but they are also used as shortcuts. My base, for an example, was built on the top of a cliff overlooking the blue zone, and I had to use my Ravager to go down the tightrope as a shortcut there. Now, I could have used a ramp that was on the other side of the mountain, but it was a little bit farther away. I'm going to rate this section a 4 out of 5. While there can be annoyances with traversal, especially with the light dance, I do like the uniqueness of it and how overall it looks, with the progression needed to go into the deeper biomes. The survival itself is also pretty good. The green zone is still just as dangerous with the larger creatures about, and the deeper areas requiring a higher level of progression and skill to reach. Unlike Scorched Earth, there really isn't any weather effects that will affect your survival, as the earthquake itself is pretty harmless. Overall, I really don't have much to say on this subject that I haven't already said, so I am going to give this a 4 out of 5 and move on. Right, so I did have issues with this playthrough. The most notable was the issue of the mesh, which I mentioned earlier. As I was passive taming the bulb dog, he managed to fall into a little bit of a ditch. I thought he fell through the map at first, but really it was just a crevice, so I crawled down into it in an attempt to save him. I did manage to get the dog out of the hole, but as I did, my character clipped into the mountain in such a way that it was an instant death. I barely got my body back out. So that was the far worst of the issues. I did have a little bit of lag, but it really wasn't that bad. And another issue that I had that was more annoying, if anything, was that the creature spawn rate was way too condensed on default settings. I had to go into the settings of the server and turn it down by 50%. Even then, I still waded through a sea of Titan boas in the blue zone, and I do feel it needed to be tweaked. For now though, I'm gonna rate this section a 3 out of 5. It's not completely unplayable, but there are some bigger issues you might face. My overall score for the Aberration map of Ark is going to be a 3.3 out of 5. It is a unique map that offers things that other maps don't, and while that is a bit of an issue with the DLC not allowing for a bit of crossplay with certain creatures and items, resources not available on other maps, now of course it makes sense to not have a Reaper on the island for an example, but I feel there can be some exceptions for things. Finally, the map itself does have issues to look out for, such as the meshing problems I mentioned earlier. But for now, that is going to be the end of this review. And if you really like Ark Survival Evolved or Ascended, I do have a playthrough series coming out very soon of the Appalachian modded map. It is a modded map that you do have to spend a little bit of money for, but it's on the Ark Survival Ascended game, and it is beautiful with tons of unique creatures, custom skins, and so much more. I'm having so much fun playing through it that I am doing a primitive playthrough with no tech, no guns, nothing like that. So if you are interested, please stay tuned and subscribe to see that coming up. I will be posting them every 2 weeks, as remember this is a review channel, so I don't want to clutter up too much with the playthrough itself. But still, I think it's fun to post it and show other people how amazing that map is. So until then, I will see you guys next time.